First question, since you started your work on the human rights and constitutional implications of corruption, how have you seen corruption manifest in Western democracies relative to traditional authoritarian regimes?
Since the communications and technological revolution that produced in part globalization, we've seen an explosion of corruption. It's now just so much easier because of the technology to steal vast sums of money and hide it. Because the opportunity has presented itself, more people have taken advantage of it, I'm afraid. Corruption has always been with us, as I said. It's both an old problem, but the ability to now steal billions of dollars with just a few clicks and hide it in tax havens or money laundering places all over the world has increased the problem exponentially.
Perfect. Question 2. Could you name one encouraging trend and one worrying trend in the international fight against corruption, and why?
I think one positive trend has been the increased involvement of NGOs, led by a number of the big international NGOs, such as Transparency International and Global Witness. They provide leadership and support for domestic NGOs to fight against corruption. They have extremely informative websites. They will, if at all possible, make staff available. They'll support, as I said, the domestic NGOs. No fight against corruption, I think, can really get off the ground without a strong civil society and without strong support within that civil society for anti-corruption work. So in a deeply authoritarian state or a totalitarian state that has abolished civil society, sadly, one will see no hope of attacking corruption. But in authoritarian states or hybrid democracies where there is still a vibrant civil society, there's now, I think, more support for NGOs and civil societies and groups within civil society to fight corruption. So that's, I think, the positive trend. The very worrying trend is the continuing, if not escalating, attack on the media. One needs a fair and free press to report corruption, to bring corruption to the awareness of the public, to do the investigative work to ferret out corruption, because corruption always takes place in secret. So the proceeds of corruption may be obvious, but the bribe isn't done in plain sight, typically. And so you need investigative journalists. You need papers in which they can publish their work and papers that support them. So a worrying trend is certainly the assault on a free press. And this has been done is being done in a number of ways. The labeling of credible, good newspapers as fake news so that people won't believe the stories they write. No democracy can survive with that. The killing of journalists. As I mentioned in my speech, there's been a large number of journalists killed in Russia over the last decade and a half. And not only in Russia, but in other places around the world. The journalists killed in Slovakia 18 months ago, for instance. Investigating corruption is now the single most significant factor in causing the death of a journalist. And I think all of us who believe in free speech, regardless of what it is, who believe in democracy, need to stand up for journalism and journalists and a free press.
Absolutely. And final question, given the obvious relationship between tax havens and money laundering, do you think the proliferation of tax haven has continued due to a lack of public awareness or because the political incentives have continued unchecked?
I think it's the latter, that there's no political will I think it's not that every member, every citizen of Canada or every citizen of the United States is aware of the tax havens and how they're used to launder not only corrupt money, but the proceeds of organized crime and just engage in good old-fashioned tax evasion. You know, I may have earned my money legally, but lawfully, but I'm not going to pay taxes on it. That's tax evasion. That's a crime. I think if you ask the ordinary person on the street whether having tax havens like this was a good idea, they'd say no. They may not be aware of where they all are. I think that the tax havens have gone unchecked because of a lack of political will. For some of them, the will must be an international will, and I am pleased to see the efforts made to shut down some of the sort of, quote, offshore tax havens around the world. The efforts made to, stop the secret bank accounts and the money laundering that goes through that. I think, however, more has to be done, and the United States has to take the lead, or should take the lead in that. It's not, I think, appropriate for the U.S. to say to St. Kitts and Nevis, you shouldn't be a tax haven, but it's okay if Nevada is a tax haven.
All right. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Yeah.